Welcome to Finance Clinic, and I am your host, Dr. Pardon Mwansa. Today, I have purposed that by the end of this presentation, I am seeking that out of all the viewers who are listening and watching this program, I am hoping that a lot of you will immediately make up your mind and start doing what this important show is asking you to do, which is to start a saving plan. And so our topic today is savings plan. The value of the Finance Clinic resides not only in helping you correct your financial situation in which you may be in right now, but the value of the Finance Clinic is to help you from a distance to start correcting things that, if they are not corrected, will land you into financial difficulties. So let me take you to the signs which I have on the board. Signs that if you start seeing these or if you are experiencing them, you need to immediately start planning on doing something. Sign number one: when you have more people in your home who are jobless. When you have more people who are consuming limited source of income, either from yourself or from your spouse, but if there are more people in the home who are jobless than those who are working, you are going, in the long run, if not even at that time, going to start experiencing financial difficulties. Sign number two: when you depend on others to pay your bills. Life the way it is, when you incur a bill, be it rental bills, be it electrical bills, be it water bills, those are expected to be paid by you. But when you constantly find yourself asking somebody else to pay your bill, your son to pay your bill, your father to pay your bill, your boyfriend to pay your bill, your whoever to pay your bill, then those are red lights that things are not okay. Sign number three: when you have no or you have less savings upon which to fall when you need a financial challenge. These three signs serve as signs that should help you either make some decisions to address this. Now, on a topic important as this, we had to go to the public to get the public opinions. Now, one of the most interesting things about the public opinions, which I get not only on the show when we go out in the streets, but which I get through reflections of people who send me text messages or even phone me. One of those things has to do with some person who sent me a text, and the text was, "Dr. Mwansa, to me, Jesus and me, the budget has balanced and we are okay." So one of the things I want to address in today's show is saving contrary or in opposition to Christian faith? Is it lack of faith when you start a saving plan? So as we go out to the public, there are three questions we've taken to the public. Question number one: how important is it to save? Or is it important to save money for the future? Let's first of all define this. What is having a savings plan? Put in very simple language, a saving plan includes or involves setting aside of money for future use. It's the setting aside of money you have earned today to be used tomorrow. Savings is the opposite of being in debt. Borrowing is using money you plan to earn tomorrow, but you use it today. And then you work for it tomorrow and you pay for it. But savings is keeping money you have earned so that you may use it tomorrow. I took time to define savings so that everybody would know without any doubt what savings is. Now, to review what we have covered in the past as to how do savings fit into a budget. A budget must have one of its components, savings. Savings is a must. Now we have covered that you must save money to give to God for church or charity, but we said next to that is savings. Once you have attended to your needs to be faithful to God, the next thing is for you to save, to have savings. Then you will have insurance, you will pay your debt, you will have your fixed expenses, you will have your flexible expenses. The point I have done on this slide is to highlight the importance of savings, that savings should come next to having met your divine obligations. And I will explain why this is to be so. And so at this time, I would like now for us to explore the big question. Why is it important to save? Number one, it is important to save so that you prepare for emergencies. The reason why you want to keep money you have earned today, keep a portion of it aside, is because life has emergencies. Let me talk about emergencies. Emergencies are things you don't plan in your life. For example, you may be driving your car, and as you are driving, you all of a sudden run over something you did not plan to run over. Let's call it a nail that goes straight into your tire and punctures your tire, and you have a flat tire. When you find yourself with a flat tire, you have an emergency you did not plan for. You now need to find a tire to replace for the one that has now punctured. What is an emergency? An emergency is when you are invited to a party, and while eating, you eat the kind of food that upsets your stomach, and you are either rushed to the hospital or you need to buy medication right away. You did not plan to eat bad food. You did not plan you will have an expense. You did not plan that you will get sick. That's an emergency. Emergencies have to do with what we don't know, and all of us don't know what will happen tomorrow. Now, friends, if I had to just make one point on this, listen to this. In life, it's not a question of are you going to have emergencies? Instead, the question is how frequent will the emergencies be? And the truth about life is that there are times when you don't even expect something to happen and bang, that thing just happens. I have known and I have heard stories of people who had planned to go on vacation. Just before they go, a funeral happens. Emergencies happen and they are not planned for. When you save money today, you set it aside, money that you have earned, but you put it aside for what you don't know. The magic of savings is that tomorrow when that thing will happen, you will, instead of borrowing, you will use the money you have saved to meet the emergency. The second reason for saving, to prepare for irregular expenses. What are irregular expenses? Irregular expenses is beginning the year with petrol costing 10 kwacha, and before 3 months is over, petrol is costing more than what you had budgeted for in your budget. Preparing for irregular expenses is when ZESCO, the suppliers of electricity, have this, and then tomorrow they increase the cost for ZESCO. Irregular expenses are those expenses that can come that you did not anticipate could be irregular in the way they come. They also include, you may not have planned to have a whole village of visitors and family and relatives come to you, but all of a sudden you have an unplanned for guest or unplanned for visitors, and that's an irregular expense. Again, I go back to the point. If you don't have any savings and you all of a sudden find yourself with a flood of visitors in your home, you will have no choice but to go to the neighbor to borrow a chicken that they are selling, or to borrow some money for you to buy something to feed those people. The point is, you would have avoided going to borrowing if you had prepared for irregular expenses. The next reason for saving is to replace expensive items that depreciate. To replace expensive items that depreciate. Now, what are expensive items? There are items in life that are expensive, like a car. To some people, it could be a bicycle. To some people, it will be a home. To some people, it will be anything that is expensive to replace. Now, when you are driving a car, the tires are finishing. When you are driving a car, the car is getting depreciated. When you have a regular saving, you are setting aside money, what will happen is, at a time when your depreciating value has gone very low in its value, at that time it breaks down, you will have been saving money to replace it. The easiest thing is, take an example of anything that depreciates. Anything that depreciates at one point will need to be replaced. When you have savings, you will find that it's easier for you to replace expensive items. Now, when you go further, you will notice the other reason for savings will be to start an investment plan. You will not start an investment plan when you do not have savings. Now, at a future time, I will talk about investments. Meaning, how do you invest what you have saved? But for today, I am talking about savings. And I am saying, if you are going to start an investment plan, which is very important, and at its due time, I'll talk about why it's important to invest your wealth. But you cannot invest if you don't have any savings. The next reason for why it is important to save is to save for your future financial goals. You remember we've already talked about financial goals. Financial goals are those financial aspirations or events you have that you want to accomplish using your finances. When you are making your budget, one of the budget line items should be saving for your future goals. And I will refer a little bit to what those future goals can be like or are. Then the next thing is to save for retirement. Like we have said in the past, there are many people who do not know that retirement is coming until retirement has come. You need to start saving for retirement. These are some of the key reasons that you are to keep in mind to help you save and to make sure you have a savings plan. Now, the last one is equally important and probably the most practical. Savings will help you avoid getting into debt. It is a fact of life that if you don't have food because you don't have money to buy food, you will be compelled to borrow. It's a fact of life. When you don't have transport money to go to work, you will be forced to ask somebody to help you. When something comes up and you don't have the means, you will be forced. As a matter of fact, almost everybody today who is in debt, especially consumer debt, they are in it because they did not have the money at the time they needed to spend. So having savings becomes a very important tool in helping you not borrow. And let me say this and say it upright, straight up. If you don't have savings and you are not doing anything about it, you have trapped yourself for a life of debt tomorrow. And if you don't have savings regularly, you have trapped yourself for a perpetual life of debt. And a perpetual life of debt is destructive to your health, it's destructive to your social dignity, it's destructive to many things about you, including when you are perpetually in debt. Statistics show many people who commit suicide, they trace the key reason to suicide as financial stress. And so if there is any reason that should help you today, after listening to this show, if you have not been doing this, if there is any reason why you should immediately go and start a savings plan, is to avoid being in debt tomorrow or being in debt perpetually. Now, obviously, you are asking us the simple question, Doc, if I keep money, what do I do with it? Where do I take it for saving? My encouragement and counsel is that you need to have an account separately opened for savings. That's money you are saving for future use. This should be separate from the account which is your checking account or the one where you just take your ATM and money is coming out. And the reason is obvious. You don't want to have access to your savings so easily, because the temptation is if you have access to your savings so easily, then you will blow your savings very quickly. That's a normal human natural tendency. Now, let's go to what I spoke of, which I just want to refer to in a quick way. What are some of the financial goals, common financial goals for which people have to save? These include education. These include a bicycle or a car. I had to have a bicycle for those whose aspirations or whose goals may just be a bicycle, and that's fine. Or a motorcycle or an automobile. It's saving for a home. We've already spoken about need to have a home in your life. and any other unique goal. I mean, unique goals refer to things that are only unique to you. Beloved friends, before I leave this important point, you will perpetually find yourself in debt if you have children and you are not saving for their education for the future. You will find yourself in debt if you are not saving for a car. You will find yourself in debt if you are not saving for a home. And you will find yourself in debt if you are not saving for unique things. Like if you're going to have a wedding, you need to save. Now, having covered these, let's now look at to who should save. In a very, very simple way, children, to start with, must be taught saving as an important principle. I could stop here and make a whole presentation, because when you teach your children the value of saving money for future use today, when you teach them, when they grow tomorrow, they will realize the value of saving. I learned saving when I was just about 10 years of age. Now, for me, it came not even by my parents teaching me or by my intelligence or anything, but it still was a savings plan. My father died when I was just 10, and the government that he worked for in those days, when they gave him what was due to him, they split that money among the children, and I was given 14 kwacha. Oh yes, 14 kwacha. And my mom took that 14 kwacha and went and opened an account, a savings account in the post office. Those days, only post offices were accessible to common people, not banks. I opened a savings with the post office, and that yellow book, which I was given at age 10, I saw my 14 kwacha every year because I wasn't using it, and it stayed there, and we continued to have it there. When I grew and had sense as to what had happened, I was able to know that this is what it means to save. And that money proved to be very, very helpful to me. So children must be taught savings. Open an account for your child. Mention to your child, son, daughter, I have opened an account in which I'm putting money for you. And when a child is of a mature age, let them control that savings account. The second group that should definitely save are the poor. Many times I've heard the excuse from the poor people that I don't have money to save, so how can I save? Well, the point is, even traditionally, here in Zambia, I remember saving was not a thing left to the rich. I remember grandparents in the old days were usually the people to whom people went and said, we need money. And then they would go and they would get from their pillows or from their mattresses. That was the common place where they stored money. You don't have to be rich to save money. You just need to be a person who has something you can save. You can even start with 5 kwacha. The other day, a person called me from Solwezi telling me that, Pastor, I have a business, and in my business, I just have 90 kwacha is all I make per day. What can I do? I told them, out of that 90 kwacha, save 5 kwacha. Obviously, the rich people have also to save. Being rich does not mean they should be excluded from saving, because they also need to have an organized life. They have their own needs. In summary, everybody needs to save. Now, how can I save is the question that many people ask. I'll share with you these very fundamental steps to how you can save. Number 1, pay yourself first. Meaning, once you have taken out the portion for God, the next person you should pay is your savings. This is a principle that is completely taught and is helpful when it comes to savings. Number 2, be regular. To be regular means it doesn't help for you to save today, this month, then you go for 8 months without saving, then you come and save. Let saving be a regular habit. Regular every week if you can, if you have money every week, if it's every month, save regularly. You will be surprised at how money can accumulate when you just save regularly. Lastly, many of you don't know that you are already saving. You don't know that you are actually experts at savings. And I'm not joking, I'm serious. Any one of you who pays rentals, monthly rent for your home, or any one of you who is right now paying to a loan for your car, or any one of you who is paying anything regularly toward a financial obligation you have, you are already saving. The only problem is you are saving the wrong way, because the kind of saving you are involved in is expensive. Why is it expensive? When you are paying toward a loan for your car, you are not only paying the principal amount, you are paying the interest on the loan. So instead of you wasting your money, because you are already a trained person in saving, start the same way every month you pay toward your rent, which is another form of saving. Start now to save by paying yourself first. How much should I save is a critical question. Number 1, as a benchmark, you must save anything between 3 to 6 months of your gross salary. 3 to 6 months of your gross salary. This is a figure that is given, or a benchmark given, because many people, when they lose their jobs, it takes about 3 to 6 months to regain a job and get back on your course. So you should simply use this formula. If your monthly salary is 5 kwacha, multiplied by 3 months or by 6 months for you to see if you have sufficient savings. You may discover that actually if you have 15,000 and your monthly salary is 5,000, then you probably have reached, or you are at the bottom end, and you can go up to 6 months. We all have different financial goals. Education, automobile, whatever. Those financial goals may be very high. And so we cannot say to you, save 3 months or save so much. That's really meant for your regular expenses like food and clothing and utilities. But when it comes to financial goals, they are different. Their volumes are different. So how much you save is also dependent on your financial goal. Number 3, the time you plan to spend your money. If you are planning, one of your financial goals is to take a trip to Australia, and that trip is going to come in September, and you are in the month of March, the amount of money you will need will dictate how much you will save, and also the amount of time you have will dictate to you how much you should save. And obviously, how much you should save is dependent on factors. For example, if you are going to be saving for retirement, you may have to ask yourself, how does your life history in your family show? Do you live long? There are people whose family backgrounds show that they live to go to 70, 80, and some of them 90. If your family history shows that you can live long, then you need to be aware that you need to save more in order for you to provide for the longevity of life that you may have. Now, let me address a question that sometimes has been misused by people. The question is saving not a sign of lack of faith in God? Many Christians say and take up verses that say, do not worry therefore where your food and your clothes will come from, because your Father cares for you. And then they use those texts to say, why should I therefore as a Christian have a plan? Why should I therefore as a Christian save money? Why don't I just use it, and tomorrow I know who holds the future and I know he will provide for me? To start with, I am not denying all the statements that are taught in the Bible about faith in God to provide for the future. They are there and they are extremely important. The only thing I want to address is the same scriptures, the same Bible does teach us the principle of saving. The first story of saving comes from the story of Joseph, as recorded in Genesis chapter 41, particularly verse 35 and 36. The story in Joseph, who found himself in Egypt, is that there were going to be 7 years of plenty of food. Then there were going to be 7 years of famine, complete hunger, complete lack of income or food. God revealed to Joseph through a dream of Pharaoh a savings plan, which simply said they were to take 1/5 of all the produce that they were producing, which is 20%. They were to take 20% and save that money or those produce or those products for the next 7 years that they were going to have plenty. Then after and when the 7 years of plenty will be over, their nation was to now live on the savings they had. This plan, which was revealed to Joseph through a dream by Pharaoh, proved as a means to save a nation for the 7 years of famine. This is in the Bible. The Bible even teaches in Proverbs 6 verse 6 to 8 that look at an ant, that insect, you sluggard. Consider her ways and be wise. Without having any chief officer or commander, the ant prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. A little ant, that little insect, it gathers food, stores it in the hole or wherever they store it, in preparation for a season when there will not be food. These are biblical teachings. To save and to have a saving plan is not contrary to scriptural teachings. To the contrary, it actually enhances the truth about biblical teachings. How many times have you seen those very people, those very Christians who will say, God will take care of me tomorrow. And when they have not saved, the following tomorrow, the following day, they come now to start borrowing money from those who saved money because they believed in the saving principle. There are many people who, in the name of Scripture, have neglected sound financial management principles, such as the principle of saving. With these principles shared before us, I therefore expect that even Christians, even Christian organizations that still depend on God, should practice the principle of saving. You know, God is wonderful. God is powerful. I mean, He can drop manna from heaven. He did drop manna from heaven for the Israelites. But you know what? The same God has on many occasions left it to you and me to work using our hands. Has left it to you and me to save, because savings is a principle even from God Himself. I have to give you assignments for today. My first assignment is to the children. Children, I want you to listen. Young people, I want you to listen. This assignment is for you. Ask your parents. That's your only assignment. Ask your parents and say, Dad, Mom, when are you teaching me about savings? And when are you opening my savings account? Do that right now after this show. Number 2, to the rest of you, I want you to calculate and determine whether you have sufficient savings. Remember the principle of 3 to 6 months worth of your gross income. And then remember the principle of saving according to your goals and the time you want to meet your goals. Calculate and determine that, and then see where you need. Number 3, please, if you don't have, go and open a savings account. Go and open a savings account. Those are the assignments that I have left with you, and I want you to know and remember, I will take your texts at the number appearing on the screen, 09633731115. Send me texts to tell me how you are being blessed by this program, and ask your questions, and let's see if together we can develop strategies for sound financial management. Until we see you another time, remember this show comes every Sunday at 20 hours. You will be able to watch this program. Thank you.